What's up everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about another post-production plugin, and that is Scatter by Video Village. And this is actually something I'm really excited about because this plugin for Resolve, I should note, really is a fantastic emulator of Mattebox filtration. And this, to me, is a really big revolution, and I, for one, am super excited about it. So let's start talking about it. Now, depending on where you're at in your career, you might not know what a Mattebox filter is. Well, I'm here to tell you, it is this very expensive tiny piece of glass here. And this, basically, you put in front of your lens to affect your overall aesthetic. And one of the three things will always be affected more or less, and that's basically going to be contrast, softening, and halation. So, depending on which filter you have, you might be more pointed in one direction than the other. Now this, depending on what lenses you're starting with and what camera, can give you all sorts of looks, and it is very useful to have in your bag. Mattebox filters come in all sorts and shapes and sizes, 4x4, 4x5.6, circular, all kinds of stuff, and they're meant for different applications. It is much easier if you're on a little gimbal with a lens to put a little circular on here instead of using a bigger filter with a Mattebox. Lots of different ways to use Mattebox filtration to affect your imagery. Now, Mattebox filters are one thing, expensive. Just this little piece of glass might cost you $500. Mattebox filters, like this Hollywood Black Magic, come in different strengths as well. 1/16, 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, 1. There's lots of options. And depending on the focal length you're using, that choice is now important because some longer focal lengths show things differently when it comes to diffusion. Wider ones show things also differently. So having a full set is actually very beneficial when you are using Mattebox filters. So Scatter is really cool because they have digital emulations of all the most common Mattebox filters that you'd find on set. Glimmer glass, black pro mist, low con, all sorts of different stuff. And not only do they have just that, they have all the strengths and you can tweak it also, which is super, super cool. So you can kind of almost make your own Mattebox filter if you wanted to layer double nodes or do something else, which is pretty fun. Now, the thing that I find hard about Mattebox filters is one, you have to carry them around. Two, they're very expensive. And also, you might need several different types of the same strength on each set depending on what you're doing. Maybe you have a second cam and you're on a gimbal and you need to run a circular on a small lens to cut with something on your main camera that has a Mattebox that you have a Mattebox filter on. So, and not only that, I find myself as a DP on set kind of having stress about like what is gonna be my look. Is this black pro mist? Is it gonna be some glimmer glass? Do I take a black satin? Kind of depends on what we're shooting. Spend all this time in pre-production building these looks, and then you get to set, and instead of having 20 shots a day, they've scheduled you 60 shots a day. Now you're all over the place, keeping stuff in when you're forgetting to take it out, when you switch lenses and this and that. Now in general, if you can stay on track and you like that commitment to your look, awesome, keep doing what you're doing. It's been great, it will always be great. But if you wanna take this into post now and have the ultimate control, that is what Scatter is. So we're just gonna put Galen in front of the camera here for a little bit, maybe show you 5 different types of diffusion, and then show you the digital version of those, A and B, and show you how good this actually is. So let's jump into some of those tests real quick right now. So I think this is really cool to see back and forth. I think the first takeaway from all of these tests is that if you didn't have an A and B on set anywhere, or anything like that, I don't think you'd ever really know if this was a physical on-set filter or if it was something done in post. I think at this point it's gotten good enough where I don't think you'd really know. I think the the biggest takeaway from doing these tests is that, yes, if all things are equal and you can 100% control every ray of light on set, I think this is a really good emulation to get you close enough to have a really great starting point. However, you can't control all the light at all times, and there are physical things that happen when light hits a piece of flat glass in front of your lens that, may degrade contrast from the top right to the bottom left as it's falling down, or things like that nature that just, to some degree, you could never escape with a physical filter. Now, some people might love the fact that those are, I guess, what you would call negatives or downsides to using filters. Some might think that that imperfection is actually amazing. There's no wrong way to think about it. The only thing to note is that in the plugin, a lot of those things that happen in real life are just not duplicatable within this plugin. So it really is just going to be the things like halation and messing with those values, as well as some of the contrast reduction, and even to some degree, like using something like soft effects. You really aren't smoothing out skin or doing anything like that. And I think honestly, that's probably better left to doing separately in Resolve with some like Gaussian blur or some other things, especially if you're just doing a really nice close-up on somebody. It's easy to do that stuff now and have that control in post. So another thing to note is just around the lights. You do get some ghosting and mirroring from some of the filters that we didn't find a way to make that as accurate as we can, especially if you're just using the drop down as a, yeah, there it is. It definitely doesn't happen that way. So there are some subtle differences if you're willing to look very closely at the image. Okay, so how does scatter work? Well, we're gonna show you. It's really simple. You just download it, install it into Resolve. It's now a plugin. Just like any other node, you drop it on your footage. Now you can open it up. You can choose what kind of diffusion you want, the strength. You can plug in the focal length that you're using. And then from there, you can adjust all kinds of things. How the highlights handle, the intensity, the strength of some of the blooming. It's really cool how much flexibility is within that, because when you're using a physical Mattebox filter, you have zero flexibility. So to even have any is really, really cool. And it is a very simple thing that's optimized for 4K timelines in Resolve. So yeah, very easy to use and super user-friendly. Honestly, it's pretty insane how close these look. I mean, it's so close that it's hard to argue why you would even need to take these on set ever. So we're just gonna go back and show you some old footage, just pop some different looks on there just to show you how easy it is to make that decision later versus committing to it on set. That's crazy, right? It's insane what you can do. Now, the price for scatter's $500, which I think is its biggest pro. Some might argue that's a con. However, when you talk about needing, let's say, a minimum of 3 filters for just say like a black pro mist on set, there's $1,500. And you just have Black Pro Mist in one size. You could have anything with scatter. I think there's 16 different types of filters you can use at varying strengths. I mean, if you were to add up the cost, I think we did this, it was something like to have all of those filters just in 4x5 only is like $25,000. So the price is actually really, really good. All right, who's this product for? I think it's gonna be a tough sell if you are a DP and you don't have control over post. If you don't know who's editing, who's doing color, kind of hard to make this commitment. But if you're a DP that likes to color their own stuff, if you already work in a post house, if you're part of a production company who has post and a production team, I think there's a lot of ways in which this product could work. I feel like the only real hard one is if you're just a casual DP who hands over the footage to post and you don't have that say later. You can always ask. I think it'd be wise to check and see. And it's not gonna work for every job, but in certain circumstances, this could be a really valuable tool to really manipulate your look in post. Now, if you're working with a director and they don't have a firm grasp of what all these Mattebox filters do, and I mean, let's be honest, most DPs don't even know that, it's like you can just offset that till later, and once you're doing your color pass, really build those looks in at the end and have infinite flexibility with it. It's really, really cool. So another pro that is here of using this versus a Mattebox is just the physicality of not having a Mattebox and a filter. One, it's a lighter camera load. Two, if you're stacking filters, you don't get reflection or like Mattebox bounce back off the lens, which if you've ever seen that is like very distracting and pretty annoying. Another one is anytime you put a layer of glass in front of your lens, you're just softening the image. Now you have a choice to do that later and just have a nice, sharp, crisp image that you can do whatever you want with. Especially anymore, I feel like, yeah, your clients just show up randomly on set and they're like, oh, by the way, we need a cutout for 9x16 and something else and this and that. So having the ability to have a nice, sharp image to start with is a really nice benefit, and you can add this to taste later depending on your deliverable, which is a really, really cool thing. So the only real cons for this are that it's not ubiquitous and you can't use it everywhere. Like if you owned this Mattebox filter, you could take it to every job and bake that look into everything you do. So that part is a little bit sad, but whatever. The only other real con is that now you're adding another processing node in Resolve that will inevitably, if you are working with something like Dehancer or some other grain or VFX, I mean, this is ultimately just going to be one more thing that could potentially slow down your render time, even though they say that this is optimized for 4K in Resolve. Okay, that is Scatter by Video Village, an insanely cool emulation app that I think will save a lot of people a lot of time and usher in kind of a new level of flexibility to what you can do from a post aesthetic side in tandem with what you can do in color in Resolve. So anymore, just Resolve is becoming stronger as a post workflow, and I love to see that because now that's gonna change the way I go about shooting things on set myself, which is actually a really nice new thing to start thinking about. Hey, technology. All right, that's our video. Scatter by Video Village. Awesome, awesome plugin. Thanks for watching. Remember, like and subscribe, and we'll come at you soon with another video.